Good to see you again on our channel. Engelbert Humperdinck has spoken out about their tumultuous relationship for the first time today. He now gives an insight into the underlying conflicts and tensions that characterize their relationship, shedding light on the less pleasant aspects of their interactions. There was a seismic shift happening in the music industry about the middle of the 1960s. The crooners of yesteryear were steadfastly clinging to the airways, even though rock and roll had taken over. Engelbert Humperdinck became the romantic hero of his era thanks to his beautiful voice and silky melodies. His breakout hit, Release Main, catapulted him to stardom around the world. Loved by those who longed for classic love songs all at once, Tom Jones burst onto the scene with a completely new vibe. Hits like Not Unusual became instant classics thanks to his powerful, raw voice and spectacular performances. In stark contrast to Humperdinck's refined grace, Jones radiated a rough masculinity. People couldn't help but draw parallels between the two. Audiences were captivated. The rivalry intensified in tandem with their meteoric rise to fame. A climate of animosity was fostered between them by promoters, fans, and media sources, making it impossible for either to ignore. The conflict was intensely personal as well as professional. Jones and Humperdinck frequently competed for the same fans, the same praise, and even the same limelight. In the late 60s and 70s, when both musicians were vying for stardom, their rivalry reached a fever pitch. Imagine these two legendary musicians performing in the same cities to sold-out crowds, and always vying to surpass each other's performances. Jones would infuriate crowds with his colossal physique and boundless enthusiasm. Ballads performed by Humperdinck captivated audiences with his charisma and vocal delicacy, making them think about the artist long after the music had stopped. There were times when the rivalry was nasty. It seemed like the artists were trying to one-up each other with their moves. Reportedly, Jones saw Humperdinck's insistence on being titled King of Romance as an attack on his own star power. Tom Jones, on the other hand, would come clean about how he felt neglected by what he saw as Humperdinck's efforts to overshadow him in the press. His animosity with Engelbert Humperdinck persisted the longest, but their feud rarely broke out in public. Whenever their paths intersected, tensions would rise. People surrounding Tom Jones frequently found themselves at odds due to his inflated sense of self-importance. He became a legend thanks to his boundless drive and shameless attitude. However, they also caused disagreements that shaped his professional life. His success belied an unflinching guy who left a trail of adoration and contempt as he fearlessly confronted the people and challenges that stood in his way. The dynamic between Jones and Gordon Mills, his long-term manager, was crucial and intricate. Jones went from being a working-class Welshman to an international sensation thanks to Mills, a cunning businesswoman who not only started his career but also carefully shaped his image. Became the international heartthrob and ruler of the Las Vegas showrooms under Mills' tutelage. Nevertheless, Jones' dissatisfaction with Mills' control over his career grew in tandem with his ascent. In the late 1970s, Jones's once powerful alliance started to crumble. Jones became increasingly resentful of Mill as he exerted strict control over her job and financial matters. There was a sense of confinement for Jones. He couldn't control his own fate. Personal feelings emerged amid their formerly professional differences, while both parties claim the other is betraying them. The partnership's final dissolution was marked by a contentious legal struggle that made news headlines and was anything but peaceful. Mills, who had played a key role in Jones' ascent to fame, became an ominous symbol of what happens when devotion and profit collide. The breakup was a watershed moment for Jones, symbolizing both the end of an era and his growing sense of autonomy. Tom Jones' disputes did not always revolve around work. The well-to-do didn't always appreciate his daring fashion choices and unfiltered enthusiasm. Prince Philip allegedly called Jones a ghastly singer in the 1960s, when he became the object of a scathing criticism. An official of the British royal family made the remark, which had a profound impact. Despite Jones' meteoric climb from the Welsh coal mines to the international arena, the comment served as a sobering reminder of the persistent class differences in society. Even though the criticism hurt, Jones refused to let it stop him. He turned it into motivation to keep performing with the same fearless attitude that made him famous. Although Jones never mentioned it, The episode became part of the legend surrounding his ascent and served to highlight the divide between his working-class background and the aristocratic elite. Tom Jones had collaborated with younger musicians to update his sound and recast himself as a genre-bending artist by the late 1990s. Among these collaborations was a cover of Baby, It's Cold Outside by Sarah Matthews, a Welsh singer. Despite the duet's monetary success, the creative process was tense. Independent musician Matthews, whose reputation rests on her frank honesty, found it difficult to connect with Jones' polished professionalism. A source of contention was her divergent creative methods. The cooperation made Matthews feel awkward because of the seeming forced nature of it, as well as the mismatch of styles. Jones, who was successful because of his versatility, saw firsthand how difficult it is to bridge musical and generational gaps. Even though the project was a success, the tension remained, and the experience served as a lesson on the difficulties of working in an artistic partnership. Tom Jones has a love-hate relationship with the media throughout his career. Many reviewers wrote off Jones in the 1970s, when punk and rock music were on the rise, because she belonged to a different time. The raw, rebellious spirit of the moment was in stark contrast to his theatrical presentations and Hollywood charisma, which were considered as antiquated. But Jones would not go unrecognized. He boldly faced the criticism, channeling it into a drive to redefine himself. Jones had discovered a method to evade his critics by the 1990s. His ability to adapt without compromising his distinctive sound was on full display in his work with modern musicians and in smash blockbusters like Sex Bomb. He refused to be limited by anyone's expectations, and one of his distinguishing features was his perseverance in the face of media scrutiny. A performer who flourished on connection yet frequently struggled with individuals closest to him, Tom Jones is shown to be a man of contradictions by his other problems. His flamboyant personality was his biggest strength and worst weakness. It catapulted him to stardom, but also caused friction in his relationships with others. There were periods of strain during Jones' career, from conflicts with management to creative disagreements and criticism from the royal family. But these just added to the richness of his legacy. Nevertheless, a tale of perseverance lies beneath the confrontations. Not only did Jones overcome these obstacles, but he turned them into motivation, allowing him to prosper in a dynamic field. The strength of character and the determination of an artist who would not give up are demonstrated by his career, which was molded by hardships as much as by natural ability. Engelbert Humperdinck found inspiration and aggravation in his battle with Tom Jones. The analogies clearly bothered him, even if he tried to dismiss their significance. As a performer, Humperdinck took great satisfaction in his capacity to strike an emotional chord with listeners. Although radically different from his own style, he thought Jones' showmanship was remarkable. Humperdinck has, in recent years, considered the rivalry from a more objective vantage point. Although the rivalry elevated both artists to new levels, it also caused their supporters to feel unfairly divided. Even though they had parallel lives, Engelbert Humperdinck and Tom Jones had quite different ideas about what it meant to be an artist. Humperdinck now admits that. Humperdinck was on one side, a silky crooner whose voice conveyed an air of refined romanticism to listeners. On the flip side, there was Jones, a living, breathing explosion of genuine emotion and intensity, whose electric performance and thunderous vocals held the audience in awe. They were complementary figures, both experts in their fields, but their motivations for making music and performing were quite different. At a time when music was changing the cultural landscape, their rivalry was more than just a personality clash. It was a defining narrative. Their careers were inseparable, like two opposed forces, drawing each other's upward momentum. For those in search of classic ballads, Humperdinck was the perfect choice, because to his meticulous craftsmanship and impeccable timing. Jones attracted spectators who were looking for a spectacular show because of his blazing zeal. The intense rivalry between them drove them to excel, and they would never have achieved their artistic goals in the absence of the other's constant shadow. There was tension and an unsaid but tangible force that permeated every chart battle, shared headline, and comparison made by fans and critics because of the intense competitiveness. The animosity betrayed a deeper truth. Both men were innovators who bravely faced the challenges of fame head-on. The timeless grace that Humperdinck exuded through his velvety voice and impeccable style appeared unaffected by the ebb and flow of musical trends. Even though rock and roll were threatening to eclipse his genre, he remained relevant by updating conventional crooning for a contemporary audience. While this was happening, Jones sprang onto the scene, embodying the tenacity and determination of the working class through his magnetic presence and boundless energy. Despite the obvious differences in their public personalities, they formed an unbreakable relationship via their shared experiences. Both had to deal with the weight of public expectation, the scrutiny of onlookers, and the grind of an industry that was both demanding and unpredictable. Despite their stylistic differences, they were both fighting for acceptance in a world that was unforgiving of flaws. Their battle was dramatic because it centered on who would leave a greater legacy, not merely who could sell more records or attract bigger audiences. Both artists were acutely aware that their histories were being rewritten in front of their eyes, and they were not about to accept second place. Subtle yet impactful moments of subtle interview commentary, strategically timed album releases to outdo one another, or jaw-dropping performances aiming to steal the spotlight were common manifestations of this relentless pursuit of greatness. Ambition, ego, and artistic brilliance clashed on stage as their rivalry extended beyond the realm of music. However, a grudging respect persisted despite the friction. Realizing their paths were inextricably intertwined, they both acknowledged the other's special gift. Jones' visceral strength, not Humperdinck's polished delivery, was what drew audiences to their feet. Because of their mutual incomparability, neither could ever equal the other's enchantment. And that was the secret to their lasting impact. Their competition had a long impact, as evidenced by Humperdinck and Jones's legacy. Their songs ring true even now, serving as both an homage to a simpler time and an example of genuine artistic expression. Their music brings back nostalgic feelings. Their live performances are jaw-dropping, and their stories teach us about perseverance, ambition, and the intricacies of human connection. The differences that formerly characterized their professional journeys now contribute to the depth of their common story. They were instrumental in creating a musical movement that united old and new, romanticism and raw emotion. Despite the dramatic nature of their rivalry, it served as an inspiration to both of their generations of artists. Their legacy is a reminder that brilliance is often the result of opposing forces interacting, a mix of tension and triumph. An inspiring tale of two guys who sacrificed all for their craft lay beneath the surface of the show, riding out the storms with a steadfast dedication to their art. Although their competition served as an initial spark, it was their mutual respect that kept their impact ablaze. Not only does their music serve as an enduring tribute to their skill, but it also commemorates a bygone age.